Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. We have a wonderful guest today, Ed Chambliss. Ed is a veteran CEO and author of the book, A One-Legged Stool. Ed, welcome to Brilliance Business.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Ed is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Ed, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business?
Absolutely. I've spent my whole career, about 35 years, in marketing. And I started off as a copywriter, writing ads for Delta Airlines and other clients, and quickly found out that I was a good copywriter, but I was a great strategist. So I moved into the realm of strategy and really trying to help companies communicate with their customers and other stakeholders. I moved over to the leadership side, where I worked at a series of agencies, advertising agencies in the United States, all the way up to becoming CEO of a mid-sized agency in Los Angeles, California.
Very exciting. And they're great companies that you're working for as well. I recently flew on a flight with Delta Airlines, Ed. They're a great airline. So you've got some great experience behind you. What kind of clients do you serve, Ed?
I really serve a wide variety of clients. I tend to lately work more with small publicly owned companies, if there is such a thing, or larger privately owned companies, mainly dealing with leadership and understanding what's the best overall model for their business moving forward.
Well, that's a great problem to solve, Ed. And do you recall a specific aha moment that led to the launch of your business?
It wasn't one particular moment. It was sort of an increasing frustration. I would find myself in meetings with clients, and my team had come together with some wonderful ideas, and we presented them to the client, and the client genuinely loved them and thought they were good ideas. And we all looked at each other and said, we know these are great ideas, but we're not going to be able to do them because we really need to focus on shareholder profits for the next few weeks before the quarterly earnings call. So it just happened more and more frequently. And I realized that a lot of business people were feeling like they had no choice, that they had to put short-term profits ahead of long-term investment in the success of the company. So I really sort of walked away from the day-to-day delivery of advertising and marketing materials and really set out to figure out what is the best way for companies to balance the needs of shareholders, customers, employees, and members of their community so that the enterprise is truly successful.
What sets your business apart, Ed, and what unique need are you filling for your customers and clients?
I think what sets my business apart to a certain extent is the ability I have to come in and help business leaders see the multiple dimensions of the people that are their stakeholders. A lot of people tend to segment human beings into one group or another. You're either a shareholder or a customer or an employee or a member of the government. But in reality, we find out that those people aren't discrete to each other, that you will often find a shareholder who is also an employee and a customer and who might live nearby the facility. So these are really just facets of an individual, and that what I try to do is walk in and work with leadership at companies to understand the whole person and realize that by engaging them in different stakeholder roles, there's a certain synergy there that can develop, and it can make the company much more successful.
So it's a great thing what you're doing when you're going into these businesses. You're helping them to run more smoothly, get more growth and become more successful, which is definitely a recipe for success. Why is your service especially important in today's modern world?
I think over the last few decades, the rise of information technology has really increased the level of transparency in the world. It's very easy for us to find out virtually anything about anybody or any company or brand. I think the days are long gone where a company can say to its customers, "You're the most important to me," and then turn around and say to their employees, "You're the most important to me," and then turn around to their shareholders and say, "You're the most important to me." I think we can all see all those communications, and it's none of us like being lied to, if you would. It's more important for us to understand that we have to have one personality and one point of view. So I really encourage the clients I work with to embrace the human being, not just that one stakeholder role. But as more technology leads to more information, it's really easy for me to see what the company really thinks and what it really does. And it's a lot easier for a company to be successful when everything is in alignment.
Can you share a few more details on the kind of services and products you offer?
Sure. One thing I try to do is go in and meet with senior level management to talk about what their challenges are, from a competitive standpoint, from a finance standpoint, and really understand what's going on from them. My company right now doesn't offer contract deliverables, things like advertising or social media, things like that. It's really more of a strategic conversation. And I think those strategic conversations are a very freeing event for the people that I talk to. I remember one meeting I had where we were meeting with the VP, the CMO of marketing, and he really liked what we were talking about. And so he called the CEO in, and the CEO called in the head of finance. And then the CEO also called in the head of legal, and then got someone from human resources on the phone. Because what we were talking about was a way of broadening the sandbox that they had been playing in. Instead of just looking at a customer as a customer or an employee as just an employee, we were looking at them as multifaceted human beings and trying to satisfy all their needs, not just that one particular one that we were most accustomed with in that stakeholder role. And it was a very freeing moment for that group and that organization. They realized that they didn't have to play in one dimension, that they could cross dimensions and work with multiple different communications and multiple different personality types.
And that's the result of great leadership, great collaboration, everyone working together. Now, I know you have all sorts of client success stories, Ed. I just want you to pick one that really stands out to you.
I would say that there's one particular client that I worked with for several years where they were really trying to make a shift from being efficiency focused to being effectiveness focused. How this company, and I will keep them under NDA for good reason. They were very caught up in their own mechanics, and they were very caught up in their own internal efficiencies. And they realized that that was sending a horrible message to their customers, that the customers felt like the company was really more about making a profit at any cost than satisfying their needs and desires. So we work with them to actually transform their enterprise software so that it didn't just focus on the fastest and the cheapest, but it included the best experience for the customer. And it was a multi-year project working with them to create software that would allow them to offer their products and services to a variety of people and actually track those customers from an engagement to an engagement. And it really yielded a much happier customer. And it also led to more financial and long-term customer relationships too.
I do love a success story, Ed, I must admit. Now, I know you have a new book, Ed, and I want to learn all about it, A One-Legged Stool. Please, can you share a little bit about the book?
Absolutely. As I started moving away from the day-to-day of just trying to sell things to customers and realized that there was a much more holistic person behind that customer, I realized that there was more to it than just what I would do at my agency or at my consultancy. So I spent the last 3 years really researching and writing a book. It's called A One-Legged Stool: How Shareholder Primacy Has Broken Business and What We Can Do About It. And it dives into how we got to where we are today. Here in 2022, there's a strong belief in the marketplace that if we go after creating shareholder value, the resulting efficiencies will solve all the other problems in the world. But I think we've been doing this for about 50 years now. It started in the 1970s as the primary model for business. And unfortunately, it's caused a lot of real problems, not just for the environment, bad customer service, reduced wages for employees, but it's also caused real problems for the very shareholders that we say we do it for. If what we're trying to do nowadays is say, well, we need to pay shareholders today rather than invest in the future, that may make the shareholders happy today, but it makes it so much harder to be profitable the next quarter and the next fiscal year. So I decided to put together a book that sort of went through the entire argument, figure out how we got to where we are today, and as well as offering some specific solutions for business leaders, as well as the rest of us, to move forward into a way where business and shareholders can profit by business solving some of the biggest problems we have today.
Who would you say this book is perfect for? So whoever out there is listening thinks I must get a copy of this book.
It's interesting. The very first words in the whole book is, this is not a book for business people. It's a book about business for all people. But I think the most important person this book is for is someone who does work in business, someone who feels in their gut that things aren't quite right, that they want to make their business an agent of positive change, but they don't know how to do it. And so what the book does is it goes through and it helps to dispel some rumors and myths that have sort of kept them trapped in the current business model. And then it offers specific solutions for how they can personally take their business through 6 steps and move it into a profitable business that is actually profiting by solving some of our society's biggest problems.
And you mentioned 6 steps there. I won't ask you to share all 6 of them, but could you pick just one of your steps that you think will be the most beneficial to anyone out there listening in business?
Absolutely. I think one of the most important steps is deciding what your business is going to be in this new multidimensional world. Businesses, for the most part, tend to judge their success based on the category or the industry that they're in. If you are in the industry that makes widgets, you're going to make the best darn widget out there, and you consider it successful when you're the number 1 widget manufacturer in the whole world. And as true as that can be, we find that human beings rarely satisfy their needs and desires by only interacting with one industry or one category. So one thing I suggest is to take your company and stop focusing on the industry that you're in and instead focus on a human condition and realize that you may be able to better satisfy a human need by specializing in that human need across industries. So it's a perpendicular approach to focusing in one horizontal industry. It's more of a vertical. One reason I talk about it is it's called the vertically integrated customer experience, where you realize that you may find success in working in a little bit of several industries instead of focusing just on one.
That's a great takeaway for our listeners, Ed. Where can our audience get a copy of A One-Legged Stool?
The book right now is available, of course, at Amazon in many different countries around the world. It's also available at Barnes & Noble. It's available on Apple, anywhere you can find it, as well as independent booksellers.
It's all over. Ed, I have thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you today. Is there anything we did not cover that you would like to share?
No, I think that was it, Mark. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I think that what I'm trying to do is help people leverage the significant power and resources of free enterprise and corporations so they can actually solve the world. And I think that's something everybody wants.
What is the best way for our audience to connect with you, Ed?
The best way to connect with me is to send me an email. My email address is ed@onelegedstool.com. And at that website, you can also read the entire introduction for free, just so you can see what the book is all about.
Ed, thank you so much for being my guest today. I thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Thank you, Mark. Have a nice day.
The pleasure's all mine. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show, conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.